Alrighty, so I am joined by Laura today. Laura works as a RD. She is a registered dietitian. So first of all, I just want to start off by saying thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to meet and have a conversation related to the world of nutrition. So I just want to start off by just having you share a little bit about yourself and your background.
Fair enough. Hi, I'm Laura. I am a registered dietitian. I have been a dietitian for 8 years now. I graduated from North Dakota State University in Fargo. Go Bison. I have worked in a variety of different modalities as a dietitian. I've worked in the fitness world. I've worked in long-term care. Um, Gosh, I even worked in like the general wellness setting as well. So I've kind of got everything from food service to fitness to community nutrition under my belt, at least a little bit. So speaking from all modalities today.
Awesome. Cool. Seems like you have a wide range of experience with that. So I just want to start the conversation just by thinking the world of nutrition can be such a complex and confusing topic for most people, and I think that's also reflected in the research as well. Whether it be like people's opinion on food or their personal relationship with food. And I think obviously we have a huge issue in this country that comes as a consequence with a poor nutrition of food, nutrition, and habits related to food. So we see this a lot with obesity and various things like diabetes. So I just want to learn a little bit more about your thoughts on what do you think led us to a state where obesity is such a problem in this country?
Yep. So that it's obviously multifactorial.
Yeah.
When you look at it from the 10,000 foot view, and also with nutrition being the focus, um, it's really comes down to overconsumption of foods that are just empty calories. You look at how busy our world has become with, I mean, obviously now with people working from home and whatnot, but like when people are running around that they're busy, like even yourself, like coming home from work, what's for dinner, taking the time to prep, all of that. And so the the food industry has become like it's altered itself to become more convenient,
Mm.
right? And so people want convenience foods. And oftentimes, convenience foods aren't necessarily the best. They're full, like when I say empty calories, we think of foods that are high calorie but low nutrient dense,
Right.
right? Something like a soda has really high calories, but there's not really a lot of nutritional value to it. And so I guess that's what I mean by foods that are just empty calories. So we're just eating too much of those foods. And then just the amount that people are eating, the portion size has become so distorted over, the last 70 years. So I would think a combination of those two.
Hmm.
And then as we transition to things like even just Zoom meetings or working from home, there's a lot less activity, right? Even for myself, I still go into the office, but a lot of my meetings are via Skype or Zoom or whatever. And so I'm going up the stairs less often. I'm leaving my office less often. So it's just even those small things from just less movement in the world.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think you hit on a lot of really key points here. Number one, I think it's ironic that we do as a country, we have had a large push towards more convenient, easy, quick, fast foods. But it's funny how those foods are often the least expensive and cheapest foods in comparison to your whole foods. I mean, it's no wonder why people opt in, because it's easier,
Yep.
it's convenient, it's faster, it's cheaper. And
Yep.
if you're a busy working professional, that's probably your first choice after a long 8, 9 hour workday, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, and then also one thing that you mentioned that I do want to touch on is the lack of movement part. Obviously, we know exercise is important for everybody, and it's important for your health no matter what age you are. W- With sort of like as it pertains to, I guess, as it pertains to kind of weight loss or people gaining excess weight, is it more of a nutrition thing? Is it more of an exercise thing, or somewhere in the middle?
It's got to be. I've heard the ratio before. It's 80% nutrition and 20% exercise.
Hmm,
I'm a fan of, you can't out exercise a poor diet. You
heard that
can't.
many times.
And so I think that both play a vital role. Um, I I mean, I don't think that they play an equal role, but I think both of them have their own space in a healthy lifestyle
Mhm.
and for weight maintenance. Yeah, because if you're over consuming food, I mean, and you do your workout every, day, or if you do a 30-minute workout every day, or if you do, an hour workout 3 times a week, you just can't out exercise a bad diet.
Unfortunately not. Yeah, and I think a lot of people, I used to think this way too, like, "Oh, if I exercise, like, I'm good, I can kinda just eat whatever," but fortunately, that's not how our body works,
Right. It
so
it definitely has to do with age as well. As we age, you just need less calories. Your metabolism isn't as, high anymore. And
mm,
so age definitely plays a huge role in, like, as you get older, you just need to eat less. And
right,
the nutritional value of your food becomes so much more important as you get older too. Um, so
that's awesome. Let's take a quick shift here, and I just want to hang on a few of the major misconceptions as it relates to nutrition. I think there's obviously a bunch today, and it can be very, very challenging for the
yeah,
everyday person to kind of sniff through. I mean, they're constantly getting bombarded with either information online from media, whatever that might be.
mhm,
So from your expertise, we've heard like some carbs are bad, fats are bad, like the whole low fat fad that went on for many years. I just want your personal opinion on some of the most common misconceptions with as it relates to nutrition and why
right.
that's a problem.
Right. So I think the thing you bring up two very um, prevalent diets. The low fat diet was something that's been around for, gosh, probably almost 70 to 80 years now. Um, and then even the low carb diet has been around for almost equally as
Yeah,
long. Definitely not as popular as the low fat diet, but I think, well, I know that both fat and carbs have their place. Not all fats are bad, and not all carbs are bad. It really comes down to, how do I say? I don't know if it's the not the quality, but it's one of the things I like to say with the rest of my clients are, how processed is your food, right? And so when I look at fat, and I start looking at things like Crisco that were just on the news, that Crisco got bought out by a different company. It's like, Crisco is a man-made fat. Crisco does not exist in the natural world at all.
it's a
Margarine,
manufactured product. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, it's man-made. It doesn't exist in nature. Margarine is another example, right? And so it's like, we're not meant to eat food like products. We're meant to eat food, right? And so then when we look at carbs, like things like soda is a man-made food, right? High fructose corn syrup doesn't necessarily, exist in nature. And so you have to start looking at how processed is your food. And there's on the food packaging, it might say, oh, well, this is natural. It's like, that doesn't really have a good definition in the food labeling world. So I like to say, look at the ingredients on your food, if it even has an ingredient list. For example, an apple has one ingredient, an apple. Their cottage cheese and sour cream are another great example, that some cottage cheeses have like 10 ingredients, and then there are a few brands out there that have two,
Yeah.
right? So there's a lot less added stuff in that food, right? So then when you look at like fats and carbs are the probably number one food that are over consumed by so many Americans.
Most definitely.
And those can be very empty calories, like I said before. And so carbohydrates can be healthy when there's things like fiber involved or vitamins and minerals. You can get a lot of your necessary carbs from fruits and vegetables, which we don't, in the normal person's mind, fruits and vegetables might not be carbs.
Yeah.
Carbs might be corn, potatoes, bread, pasta, rice. You can get plenty of carbohydrates from fruits and vegetables without even consuming any of those other starches like bread, pasta, cereal, rice, etc. Then we come to fat, and it's like, okay, well, we want to eat as much natural fat as possible, but fat has gotten such a bad rap over the last, again, 70 years.
Yeah.
And so whole fats, real fats, things like avocados, right? And avocado is a whole food, it's a fruit, and it's a really great healthy fat. And then you come to things like nuts and seeds, like the chia seeds or flax seeds or almonds. Those are healthy fats that are whole foods. Even things like butter. Butter is a great fat. It's very good for you.
Real, natural, 100% butter. Not the, I can't believe it's not butter. The real stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like that, the stuff that's manufactured, it like tricks your body into thinking that it got nutrition, but your body didn't get nutrition. And
Right.
so you're almost left like craving more because of the lack of vitamins and minerals. Like, that's another thing that fat provides. Fat is a vessel for absorbing vitamins and minerals. When we don't eat any fat, our body has a much harder time absorbing vitamins and minerals.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, there has to be a balance between the two. I would say that, you know, it's hard for people to hear, but on a diet that is lower in carbohydrate, not very low, but something that's like a moderate carbohydrate and moderate fat diet is very good for you.
Mm-hmm. I think you just hit the hammer on the nail. It really, if I think if people try to look at more everything in moderation, like obviously we've heard moderation is key. I think that would solve a lot of their issues. But I want to circle back real quick to the your comment on fruits and vegetables and how that's a high source of fiber, and as a result of that, that allows people to feel satiated and full from actual real food they're eating. And I think that a large problem with nutrition and dieting is that some people try to adopt a restrictive way of eating, whether that be through all the diets out there. There's a million, whether it be the keto, the Weight Watchers, what have you. So I just wanted to touch base on a little bit of your experience working with clients on some of the most standard diets, either why they don't work and if they do work, sort of like what some people can start to do to try to get out of the diet mindset and think more long term so they can eat in a way that's sustainable.
Right. I think the conversation should start with the idea of calories, right? Let's look at that for a second, right? Calories, we've been, taught for so long that we need to count them, right? Calories, if we eat too many of them, become bad, right?
Hmm.
Calories can be, and so I want to put that aside for a second and look at the quality of the calories that you're eating. It was given an example to me a long time ago, like if you eat 1,000 calories worth of Doritos and 1,000 calories worth of chicken, like you can't even finish 1,000 calories worth of chicken. You're gonna be full,
No.
right?
Yeah.
But you can easily finish 1,000 calories worth of Doritos and be like, okay, what else is to eat? So the quality of your calorie really makes a difference. And so that's the first thing right there. If all of you're doing is saying, this is the cap of calories and I can eat anything I want as long as I don't go over that cap,
Mm.
I think you're going to find yourself being very hungry and it's not going to last you very long at all. If you start looking at the quality of the calorie that you're consuming, good proteins, healthy fats, food with fiber. Those are three foods that will help keep you full and can be, I mean, fat, yeah, it's twice as many calories as the other two nutrients. However, fat can fit into a healthy diet. Eating fat does not make you fat. Eating sugar and having your insulin go up, insulin is the main hormone that allows you to store fat. And so if you're constantly flooding your body with carbohydrates, all your body is doing is gaining fat because that's what insulin is meant to do. So um, I think the quality of your calorie really, really matters, not necessarily how many calories you're consuming. So I think people should review that before going, oh, I can only eat 1,200 calories. No.
Hmm. Hmm. Gotcha. Awesome. Cool. So just a few more quick questions before we start wrapping up, and that is just for the average person who just sort of feels lost. You gave a lot of really like awesome, actionable advice on background. Specifically, people who struggle with cravings and binge eating. What are a couple strategies that they can start to do that maybe help with that?
Yeah, for sure. So there's it's a more complicated answer for sure than just a couple sentences.
Right.
There's a lot of hormonal involvement in craving and appetite and such. And so to feel satiated, to feel full, I really feel that um, three main nutrients can help start that process. Get eating plenty of protein. Protein is something that definitely helps keep you full. Fiber is another one, and then fat. Fat itself just takes longer to digest, same with fiber. So, protein, fiber, and fat are all three things that can help keep you full for longer. But then when you start talking about cravings, that can be a number of different hormones. Like if you're stressed out, sometimes people crave salty foods, and the hormone cortisol is really involved in your stress levels. And if you're really stressed out, sometimes salty things can actually, or even carbohydrates can actually lower the cortisol level. So there's a lot more to the cravings aspect, and it has to do with hormones. So that's a more complicated answer, but some things that you probably have heard before that you could do is, drink plenty of water. For example, I'm someone that loves chocolate after lunch, right? So I need to make sure that I'm drinking like all of my water before I even think about having that Kit Kat bar or whatever. Waiting 20 minutes before you eat something that's a craving, really giving yourself the opportunity to go, am I hungry or am I just bored or do I want, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
sure.
water, time, and then eating more protein. Like instead of going for something sweet, go grab like half a cup of cottage cheese and eat that, and then maybe wait another 20 minutes to see if you're still craving said food.
Right. No, that's perfect. And I think oftentimes, like when people go on this kind of craving or binge cycle, like it's not even that they're really hungry because I guarantee you, you're not gonna binge on like avocados. You're gonna binge on some unhealthy stuff, right? And I think a lot of that maybe comes more from the emotional side too. There's a whole emotional side to eating as well. That would be a
Oh, yeah,
whole nother conversation.
right.
And like feeling the actual sensation of hunger. So
Right. Yeah. No, it's something that I want to bring up. People think that dieting is the reason why people call it a diet, right, is they need to make some changes or they want to make some changes pretty immediately. And so they reach out for something of any kind that has structure, right?
yeah.
Structure can be very good because without structure and without a plan, getting to your goal is very difficult, right? Even with exercise, when people are like, well, I want to run a marathon. You can't run a marathon with just doing it. You just can't go do it, right? You have to have a training schedule and you have to have a plan. You can't just say, well, I'm going to run 6 miles today. You're going to like, when am I going to do it? And
Exactly.
so those diet programs offer people a pre-built structure to get to part of their goal, right? And as soon as you develop or get into that structure, um, you start probably having a little bit more what people call willpower,
Hmm.
right? People say, well, I don't have self-control. I don't have the willpower is like a muscle. It needs time and practice in order to become stronger. And so those diet programs, I mean, it could be anything, right? It could be Weight Watchers, it could be Slimgenics, it could be whatever. And so those do offer some benefit in terms of offering structure, helping your willpower develop. And so those are good in the very beginning, but at the same time, that type of thing might not be able to be sustainable. You have to be able to, you know, develop that willpower so those choices can become more of a lifestyle
Hmm.
rather than just a fleeting pass at something healthy.
No, that's the key right there, because I think going on any sort of lifestyle change, obviously, like you said, people are going on a diet because they want to improve that area of their life. But my question is, what happens after that 3 months where your diet plan or your Weight Watchers, your keto program is over? Like what happens then? Like
Right,
hopefully, you learn some things along the way, but the unfortunate reality is a lot of people just revert right back to their old
right,
habits. And I think that there is no right answer for anyone. There will probably take a lot of experimentation along the way. But is there any last words you'd like to add, or some takeaways people could take home with that before we start wrapping up?
um, let me see. I touched on the willpower. I'm just looking at my notes here.
Yeah, yeah, we
I
covered
mean,
that.
the quick things that I'd like to say to people is, even if you're not going to be looking for like one of those diet programs or whatever, if you start looking at your nutrition and the two probable things that can help you make lose weight or make changes are start reducing the simple sugars and the empty carbohydrates that you're consuming, and then just start to replace those things with veggies and proteins.
Right.
um, those are two easy things, and then ditch anything that's a drinkable calorie. Anything that's a drinkable calorie. I know that, that does include booze, right? Or drinking or beer or whatever, and that has its place, right? But if you're drinking 5 or 6 beers in a night, that's calories that you're drinking.
And a lot of
Um,
people don't account for that, like those 3 glasses of wine, like, and
right.
that stuff isn't bad, like, people should enjoy that in
Yeah,
moderation, but it's something that kinda goes over their head with the liquid
exactly.
calories, is they do add up very quickly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my thing. Reduce, get rid of any simple sugars. Start really looking at the quality of the calorie you're consuming and, replacing those poor empty calories with things like protein, veggies, fruits.
Awesome. Cool. Well, hopefully you guys have some takeaways from this and just an overall increase of awareness in what you're eating and how you're eating. So thank you so much, Laura. I really, really appreciate the time and feedback, and hope you have a great rest of your night.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Alrighty. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.